Module functions of behavior. Breaking news. Every human on Earth engages in behavior for 4 different reasons, according to decades of behavioral research. Behavior functions are defined by what function they serve, what measurable change they cause in the environment that either maintains, increases, or decreases the future frequency, duration, or magnitude of that behavior. We use a SEAT acronym to remember the 4 functions of behavior. So it's sensory, escape, attention, tangible. SEAT. Let's start with sensory. Sensory is in the absence of or relative deprivation of a particular sensory experience, a behavior occurs that produces a sensory experience. There's positive automatic reinforcement. A learner is engaged in no activity, flaps hands, and is engaged in some form of physical activity. And then we have negative automatic reinforcement. A learner experiences ear pain, punches the ear, and the ear pain is reduced. There's a lot of different scenarios or examples that you engage in sensory behaviors. And just think about sensory behaviors as any behavior that does not require an audience or anyone there to clap or maintain that behavior or to acknowledge the behavior for it to occur over and over again. Some examples I can think of is, for example, singing in the shower. You don't need an audience there to sing in the shower. Scratching your back. Exercising sometimes can be considered automatic reinforcement because you don't need to have someone, an audience there to always applaud and give you that reinforcement to engage in that response. So think about sensory as any behavior that occurs that requires any usage of your senses. Okay, so like even smelling, sometimes we acquire certain smells that we like to certain things we like to smell. Music-wise, we like to hear certain types of music. So every person has different types of sensory reinforcement, right? Every person engages in some type of sensory behavior. Okay, let's move on to escape. So for escape is in the presence of an aversive stimulus, a behavior occurs, and contingent on that behavior, the aversive condition is removed, reduced, or alleviated. So here's an example. A client hears mom turn the blender on. The client screams, the mom immediately stops the blender. So there's a lot of scenarios and examples that we engage in our typical life that's for escape or avoidance. And a really good one that I like to give all the time is, for instance, let's say you're leaving to work and you're stuck in traffic. You have bumper to bumper traffic, and now you have to figure out a way how to get out of the traffic. So what you end up doing is you end up using your GPS system. So your GPS system works to get you out of the traffic. It gets you to work on time. So in the future, if you're caught in traffic again, you're going to use the GPS system again. For avoidance is that, let's say that you actually learn from that experience the day before. The next day you're like, okay, I'm gonna actually use my GPS system before I even get on the freeway. So you end up getting your GPS system set up, and you're able to find different routes before you even come in contact with that particular traffic. So once again, escape or avoidance, it has to do a lot with removing some type of aversive condition, and that removal allows us to continue maintaining that behavior over and over again in the future. Okay, and there's a lot of different scenarios that we encounter on our daily lives that are due to escape and avoidance. Attention. In the absence of relative deprivation of attention, a behavior occurs that produces attention in some form for the learner. So eye contact, laughter, reprimands. A client's father is cooking dinner in the kitchen when the client begins hitting his head on the couch cushions repeatedly, wherein the father yells, "Don't do that!" So in this scenario, some people may say, "Oh yeah, the father reprimanded the person, and that behavior should reduce." And that's not the case. Sometimes some of our clients engage in behaviors to try to get that reaction from people, and sometimes we do the same thing. When I say we, I mean any human being. We engage in different behaviors to try to get some type of reaction. Look at the press. Look at the media now. Social media is a really good example. People are posting some really interesting videos to try to get some type of view, some type of like. And that in itself is behavior that's maintained through that particular reaction for people. So attention is a big deal for human beings. And if attention is not provided when positive behavior is occurring, people will engage in problem behaviors to try to get that attention. So that's another function. Tangible. In the absence of relative deprivation of a preferred item or activity, a behavior occurs that produces access to that activity or item. Here's an example. So a client is asking to play with his sister, but his sister does not want to play. The client takes his sister's iPad and she chases him around the house for 5 minutes. So in this scenario, access to the iPad is really what the client is trying to get. And that happens a lot too. If you're working in our field specifically, you have a lot of clients that do not have the vocal or the words to say, hey, I want an iPad, or can I borrow the iPad, or can I have a cookie, or can I have, more coloring book. These are different requests that it's really easy for people that have the language, but for individuals that do not have language, they do engage in behaviors to try to access these things. And if it works, they're going to continue doing that behavior. So it's really important for us to continue assessing that and try to teach some type of communication to replace this problem behavior for access to some type of item. Okay, so here's a matching exercise. So go ahead and finish, try to complete this matching exercise. I'll give you a minute to do that. So we have the function here, the definition. So escape, it's here. Access, sensory, and attention. And here are the definitions. The behavior results in an individual getting something that he or she prefers or likes. The behavior results in either positive or negative interaction between the individual and others. The behavior results in the individual getting out of task or condition that he or she does not want to do or experience. The behavior results in a physical experience that feels good to the individual. Okay, so I'm going to match escape. So escape is something that has to do with here, this one. The behavior results in the individual getting out of a task or condition that he or she does not want to do or experience. Let's go with access now. Is this one here. The behavior results in an individual getting something that he or she prefers or likes. Sensory is this one. The behavior results in physical experience that feels good to the individual. Attention. The behavior results in either positive or negative interactions between the individual and others. All right, there you go. Those are your 4 functions of behavior. Once again, so you can remember them, make sure to use the SEAT acronym, which was shown at the top. And that's SEAT. That's sensory, escape, attention, tangible.